All right, welcome to CIS 1501. This is our CS1, Computer Science 1 for data scientists. So we meet Mondays and Wednesdays, 12:30 to 1:45 here for lecture time, and then labs Monday from 2 to 3:45 in the HPEC 1190 room. That is, trying to get my bearings straight, I think that direction towards the corner of campus. So we'll basically, after this class on Monday, we can walk over that way, get some time, get some food, get some drink, and we'll pick it back up at 2. So as you notice, there's not computers in this room. There are computers in that room. So that is lecture time, I talk at you, lab time, you practice. You're welcome to bring your laptops and do the stuff if you want. Generally, I talk a little fast. I'm working on slowing down, but I have 7 kids at home. My youngest is 5 weeks old. So I drink a lot of coffee. And just holler at me if you need me to slow down, but it'll be recorded. If you would like to go back and watch the recording on YouTube, fantastic. If you'd like to participate remotely, you can find me on my Twitch channel. I'll send you all those links in a little bit. I'll post them all on Canvas. You can find them. You're welcome to do that. I don't take attendance. This is a college course. It's up to you folks to manage your own learning. If you don't show up and you don't learn it, you'll fail the projects. It pretty much happens like that. But if you put the time in, you should do fine. And it works out pretty well. So I trust you folks to manage that yourselves. And then it's flexible. If you're sick, please don't come. Again, I have 7 kids at home. My littlest is young. He was just in the ER last night. It's been a crazy weekend, and today's Monday, and not ready for Monday. But it's been a little crazy. So don't come if you're sick. Join live, or just watch the recording later. Okay. So we'll just agree not to come if we're sick, and life will be better for everyone that way. This is me. Sorry, I'm Eric Janeski. Nice to meet you. I've been teaching here part-time since 2016 or so. It's been a little while. This is my university email address. If you're going to contact me, email directly. Don't use the Canvas send message to. The Canvas message is an email, but it goes to my non-priority inbox, so I'll ignore it until I actually sit down at my desk and open up my email. If you email me directly, it comes to my phone in my priority inbox, and I see, oh, hey, someone sent me a message. If you prefer calling and texting, this is my cell phone number. I apparently have a phone somewhere here on campus. I don't know what the number is, and I don't use it, and it would be silly to make you call that if I'm never going to check it anyway. So just use my cell phone. It'll be fine. If you do want to meet in person, I have office hours throughout the week, or we can meet virtually, or you can meet me virtually during my office hours. Totally up to you. Don't feel like you have to come up to campus just to meet me. We have pretty decent screen sharing tools, collaboration tools nowadays. It's 2022, so we can work it out. But I am over in the CIS building. Room 239 is like half or like a third co-working space for lecturers. The rest is like a conference space for presentations and other events and things the CIS department does. It's a nice little room. But I'm over there, and that's like that direction, I think. You might not have ever been there because there's no classrooms in that room. There's office space, lab space, and faculty lab space, that sort of stuff. So, all right, some program learning goals. These came from the data science program. Should be no surprises here. The course objectives are more interesting because we will hit all of these things as we go throughout the semester. We'll look at UML use cases and activity diagrams, and if that doesn't make sense, it doesn't have to. It's okay. We'll get to it, and we'll cover it throughout the semester. If it sounds familiar, great. If it doesn't sound familiar at all, no biggie. We'll look at the merits of alternative designs for programs intended to solve the same problem. We'll create test cases based on module pre- and post conditions. I don't have to read this all to you, do I? This is stuff we're going to do. We'll get to it. We'll come back to this list later. And I don't know why that one folded. I'm sorry. Probably because I did it like 1 this morning. Just like you folks, if there's a deadline, you don't do it until the deadline, right? So this wasn't due until Monday. And my son being in the ER Sunday really messed it up. So I'm on my 4th cup of coffee here, and it's only like 12. So we'll get there. So for our textbooks and technology material, our main textbook and reference here is this Zybook. It's actually really cool. It's an online ebook, but more than just an ebook, it's an interactive platform. So they'll give you an example, and you can go in and edit it and hit run, and it will run your Python code, which is really neat. And then it has some built-in, they're called Zy Labs, where it says, hey, do this thing, and it will check the outputs to see if you did it right, which is really cool. It's self-correcting. You can go through and do those. So the Zy Labs are separate from our labs. The Zy Labs are just more practice for you because I believe the only way to get better at writing software is by writing software. You can't read about it and never write it. So we're going to spend a lot of time writing software. writing code to get better at it. So there's a code here that you use. It's a subscription-based service, so you get access to it for the semester. You can save it off as a PDF, like one chapter at a time, because they really want people not to do that, or at least make it easy to share, that sort of thing. So you can save the text portion of it for reference if you like to keep your textbooks, sort of thing. If not, it all goes away at the end of that subscription. So just keep that in mind. We're going to use GitHub as our source control tool. So Canvas is great at attaching files, and the code we write in Python will be files, but it's not made to go in Canvas. So GitHub is made for dealing with source code. So when we write Python code, we're going to use GitHub to track it. It is a public cloud-based service, so you can use whatever username you want. It doesn't have to have your username in it. You will turn stuff into Canvas, and Canvas knows who you are, and that's how I'll know who you are. So GitHub could care less. You can be Sparkle Fancy Pants if you want on GitHub, and GitHub won't care, and I won't care. We're going to use Python 3. Whatever the latest version is. Sometimes it changes mid-semester, so I try not to put a specific version in here. If you just go to python.org and downloads, our latest is 3.10.6. Sure. It really doesn't matter much, but we do want to try and keep up with the latest to make sure we're getting all of our security patches and that sort of thing. So probably don't need to change it for what we're doing throughout the semester, but you're welcome to go and upgrade it anytime you want. So we'll go download that. And then I like the Pycharm IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. I think it's a great place to go and write Python code. If you've done Python before and you've used a different development environment, go for it. It doesn't matter much. We'll do like one thing later on that'll be Pycharm specific that some other tools don't do as well. We'll touch base on that when we get there. But aside from that, I really like Pycharm. It works out really nice. Right? And then what everyone cares about is how you get your grade for the class. Now, these are weights, not scores or points. So of all of the labs that you do, your total score of labs will be 10% of your final score. Right? So if you got 90% on your labs, you'll get 9% out of the total 100% in the class. Right? So it doesn't matter if labs are worth 10 points and assignments are worth 10 points and quizzes are worth 10 points. The points only matter in their categories. Okay? Some people get confused about that. Canvas does a pretty good job of showing that, so that's nice. So we'll have labs every week worth 10% of your grade. We'll have quizzes every week worth 10% of your grade. These are open book, open notes, open internet quizzes. Honestly, I give them to make sure you're reading the book. And then you also get points for doing your book. So the Zybook, because it's an interactive platform, will track whether or not you've done it. And I can see how much of the book you've completed. So if you go and actually complete them, you'll get 10% of your grade in the class. Okay, so like free points for reading the textbook, essentially, and doing the practice and the Labs. It actually takes a little more time than you might expect, but it's totally worth it, totally worth the practice. I'm a pretty big fan of their platform. I think it's pretty cool. They used to be an independent company, and then they got bought out by a big publisher and started raising their rates. So I'm less fond of them now that they started raising their rates. But I guess that's sort of just what happens. All right, so it's 30% of your overall score. These are essentially participation points. If you show up to lab and you try and you get stuck, I will help you get unstuck. Right? No one should not solve a lab. That's literally your practice time. They pay me to sit there and help you. Right? I will talk at you, show you things, and then we will go practice those things. If you're not being successful practicing them, you're going to have a hard time on the projects. Right? So that's why we have the practice time every week. The quizzes, it's all coming out of the Zybook and stuff that I say. They should be free points. It's open book, open notes. There's no time limit aside from the due date. You'll have all week. So all the quizzes will be due the week after we finish the chapter. So we'll have lots of time to do them. Again, it's your incentive to actually go and read the book. So the Zybook, you can just like click things and it will mark that you've done it without actually reading it. Okay, sure. The Labs don't work like that, but the rest of the interactive portions, you just have to click something. So the quizzes are like, go and read the stuff. That's your goal here. And then we'll have 4 individual projects here, worth 25% of your overall score. These are the bulk of your score comes from code that you write, which that's the goal of the class, is you learn how to write some code to solve some problems. We have 1 exam, just the midterm, worth 15% of your overall score. It's open book, open notes. I get paid a lot of money as a software engineer, and no one has ever told me I have to do it from memory, because that'd be dumb, right? So I won't test you to see if you can memorize things, because that's also dumb. Now, there are people here on faculty who are a lot smarter than I am, and they have different opinions. They're welcome to their different opinions, and they're wrong. But if they're teaching the class, they get to say this test is done on paper, and you have to memorize crap. I can't change the world. but I can change my class. So open book, open notes, it will have a time limit, but it's like a 24-hour time limit. So not like, hey, sit and do in 1 hour. There's occasionally times when you're writing code and it's time sensitive, especially if your production system's down and something's broken. Most of the time, they don't really care if it took you 5 minutes or if it took you 10 minutes. Like, as long as you're getting your work done, you should be okay. Now, like, if you're only getting one thing done a week and it's taking you all week long to do one simple task, you'll have some issues for sure. But generally, time pressure is just silly and it's arbitrary. So we'll avoid that as best we can. And then the last month of class, we'll have our final project. Trying to get that angle right so it's not, camera's not up my nose. The final project is worth 30% of your overall grade. So this is big, but this is in lieu of a final exam. I want to see, can you write code? Go figure. That's what I seem to care about. And we'll get to that when we get there. So the grading scale, this should be standard. This came off the syllabus template, so it should look the same for all of your classes. If there's a particular letter grade you're looking for, go for it. For you undergrads, if you're looking at getting internships, some companies are jerks and they won't look at you if you don't have a 3.5 or higher or whatever their requirements happen to be. That's one particular filter they use. I'm sorry. But so if you need a letter grade, want to get a particular GPA, you know what you have to get for. Okay. In terms of the tentative schedule, again, it's tentative. If it needs to change, I'll change it and I'll let you know. But this is the plan here. We have Monday and Wednesday meetings and lab on Monday. So I didn't put labs specifically in here. This is just the Monday, Wednesday lecture topics. Labs will be about the stuff we've lectured on. We being me, I'm sorry, it's a terrible habit. I think I wish I was a king or something. It's the royal we, I say all the time. I'll try and not. So this week, we're going to do the course introduction. We'll talk all about GitHub and installing Pycharm, getting up and running with Python. That's this week. I do plan to have a lab. It'll be short this week. There's usually a sign on the door that says no labs first week of class, and I think that's stupid because like we have the time and we can go get through stuff and get to something new. And then we don't have a lab on Labor Day anyway. There's no lab Monday. So no lecture Monday, no lab Monday. So we're kind of missing a lab day due to the holiday. So we'll try and meet today. It's got to be a little short. I have to get back home and get my son to the doctor for his follow-up after the ER visit. But it'll be a pretty quick. I just want to walk you through, make sure you can get your first Python program up and running. So before you get out the door, you'll have your very first Python program running and you'll say, I can make the computer do things. And it's actually a really fun feeling. Pretty fun if you haven't done it before. And then next week, we'll start into the Zybook. The intro is pretty short, so we just need Wednesday for that. And then we get into chapters 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, and on and on and on through the Zybook. The midterm is a little bit late in the semester. I apologize, but it's my class and I get to set the schedule. And this happens to be the week I'm in Disney World with my family. So you'll have midterm review, and then the midterm, again, it's open book, open notes, open internet, not open neighbor, right? This is your individual work, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit here, to do the midterm. So you'll have that whole week set aside for review time and looking at it. I'll give you last year's midterm that I gave, so you have a feel for what the questions look like. It'll be half quiz questions, half programming questions. Designed so that if I wanted to, I could say, hey, please take it during our regular meeting time, get it done and out the door. So it's meant to be short, but I don't like time pressure, so I give you more time than you need on it. Okay, and then we come back from midterm week, we're into November. Pick up the last couple topics. We start on files. We look at our final project the second week of November, or is it, I guess, second and a half week November. We break for Thanksgiving, then we come back, pick up some topics. So the inheritance and recursion topics are covered deeper in the next course. So there's Computer Science 1 and Computer Science 2. There's CS1 and CS2 for data scientists, 1501 and 2001. So we kind of touch on the topics. We don't go super deep on them because it's meant to pick them up again later, just kind of an intro to it. So there won't be as much material there. So we'll have more time to work on this final project that is worth a lot of your score. Feels really intimidating, but I promise it'll be pretty good. And then we'll talk a little bit about plotting and some basic graphics as well. And then instead of a midterm exam, we'll get together and we'll present our final projects. So you'll have a chance to show what you did, show it off in front of the class. It's a good practice to start getting into now of showing your work to peers. I know I'm in the back evaluating, but try and ignore me. You're just showing off your work to your classmates. Like when you get in industry, you're going to do some work and you'll show it off to your team and say, hey, look, I built this thing, and you can get some feedback and you can iterate on your design and hopefully get some better working software out of the deal. But that's a good habit to get into. Even if you're not comfortable talking in front of people, that's okay. Like anything, it takes practice. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. And I want you to have that practice. Okay, so that's the tentative schedule. Cool, no questions. Some course-specific policies for me. I'm really big about academic integrity. and I hope you folks are too, because if your fellow classmates cheat and get a degree, they're going to go get hired and they're going to suck at their job, and then that employer will think U of M Dearborn does a terrible job educating you and won't hire other graduates. So it's in your best interest to make sure your classmates don't cheat, because it devalues your degree and makes us look bad. Okay? So sharing your code is plagiarism. Don't trust your friend or your classmate when they say, hey, I just want to look and see what you did. I'm not going to copy you. That's a lie. They're going to copy you. Okay? And if you supply the code and they copy you, you are both guilty of an academic integrity violation. Tell them no, get lost. Okay? You're taking the class, you can do your own work, you can figure it out. Tell them to come ask me. I'm actually a generally sort of friendly person. You'll get to know me throughout here. Happy to help. That's literally why they pay me, not just to stand up here and talk at you, but to help you learn the material. So if you're stuck, come ask me. Okay, don't ask your classmates for code. Don't ask them how they solved it. Just come ask me. Okay. If you violate our academic integrity policy, you will fail the class immediately. There is no I get a 0 on the project or the assignment. There is no this or that. You will fail. Cheaters will not pass my class. I'm very serious about this, and it still happens every semester. And I get all worked up. My blood pressure gets raised here, and it upsets. Just ask my wife. It actually upsets me when this stuff happens. And I've not yet had a semester where it hasn't, and I don't understand why people don't just not cheat. So. And it's a ton of paperwork. If you cheat, I have to fill out this giant form. I have to document everything. I have to send it over to my dean and bother the dean, and then he has to get involved. And the deans all keep a college-wide list, and I believe we still have our 3-strike policy. So if you violate this 3 times across the entire college, you will be kicked out and no longer welcome to be a student here, which is good. Cheaters shouldn't get degrees. Okay, we can all agree on that. I know that sounds all scary, so if you're not sure, ask me. Okay, I know there are websites like Stack Overflow, like literally that's where I go for work to find solutions, to find code. Okay, but this is academia. So if you have a source and it's not yours, you have to cite your source. Okay, they pay me to come up with assignments that can't be Googled. So when I come up with an assignment, that you can't go Google it for a solution. If you go and find, hey, here's a little piece of something I found on Stack Overflow, fantastic, have at it. Open book, open notes, open internet. Cite your source. It's academia. You have to cite your source. Okay. That being said, websites like Chegg and other sites that allow you to pay a quote tutor to do the work for you is not okay. Chegg and other similar sites are completely banned. Don't post anything there. Don't cite anything from there. Stay off of them. They're getting sued. I hope they go out of business. They are terrible people. They're the worst to work with. They're like, oh, we're all friendly for faculty. And they're like, hey, you can give us a copy of your test and we'll keep people from posting questions about your test for 24 hours. After that, they say, screw you. I have the ability to keep it from getting posted, but I'm not going to. Like, they're literally the worst, and I hate them. And then if my stuff gets posted on Chegg.com, which I go and look for, right, because I'm not dumb, I have to get my dean to sign a paper and turn it into a PDF and send it to Chegg to say, yes, we really don't want my material out on Chegg.com. And please, by the way, tell me who paid to have this answer done. And then I get the name of who submitted it, because you have to pay for that service. And then I get the name of who cheated, and then they fail the class. They get reported to the dean, and they're on the naughty list. Okay? Please just don't do it. It's a lot of work for me, and I hate it. It's a lot of paperwork. Okay? People will almost always say, oh, I didn't know how to cite my source. So here's different ways you can contact me. Okay? If you don't know how to do something, you need to contact me. Don't turn it in, and then I accuse you of cheating, and then you say, oh, I wasn't sure. Okay? It's not hard, I promise. So great. Take a little piece of code from Stack Overflow, perfectly fine. We'll cite your source. I'll help you with it if you have any questions. Getting an entire solution off of Chegg or similar sites is no good. Okay? All right, sorry, I get worked up about that. Every semester, I've not had one where I haven't had to fail someone, and I don't understand. I had the same person cheat twice in a row in the class, the winter semester and the summer semester, on the same project. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so with our projects that we're going through, you'll notice we have project review specified here. I have found it generally worthwhile, and most people give me positive feedback that I'll go over how I would solve the problem for you in class. That being said, there's a solution to the project posted a minute after it's due. So it'll be due at 12:30 p.m. that week. So at 12:30, we'll start class. I'll go over a solution. I can't take stuff late because there's a solution out there, right? Okay, so please plan accordingly. You have at least 2 weeks, I guess exactly 2 weeks for most of the projects and more for the other projects. I can't take them late. If there's some sort of emergency, right? I get it. I'm happy to work with you, but what's going to happen is you'll get an alternate project, and then you now have 2 projects to do in that next 2-week period, which is generally not good. But if it's an emergency, stuff happens. I get it. I had to take my kid to the ER yesterday. I'll work with you, but we'll try not to do that. That'll be the exceptional case. Okay. So written approval. If you got in a car accident and you can't send me an email, that's fine. Like I'll work with you. Okay. But again, let's try and plan ahead. The food pantry. We do have a student food pantry run by the Office of Student Life. If you need any sort of food assistance, please get in touch with them. It's phenomenal that we still have this up and going. This was actually new, I think 2 or 3 years into when I started here, as we realized it's really expensive for school and students don't always have enough resources. So please take advantage of that if it can be useful for you. And then other university-wide policies. They're all linked in Canvas, which is awesome. I don't have to copy paste them here anymore. Okay. Sorry to read most of that to you. I know you folks know how to read. I want to go over the highlights and get upset about cheating. That's makes my day. All right. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Doing okay so far? All right, awesome. So let's get into Python and Pycharm and GitHub. The things we're going to do in our lab today will be your first practice. So we do have lab computers if you'd like to use the university computers, or you can install it all on your laptops. It's all free software, which is phenomenal because free software is the best. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the Python download and get the latest version of Python. Again, we'll do this in lab where I can actually walk around the room and help you all with it. So if you want to do it now, great. If you want to do it in lab, great. No big deal here. So you'll go download Python, and then we'll go download Pycharm. You can just search for Pycharm, or you can click the link in the syllabus. There's the professional version that you have to pay for. Don't do that one. There's a community version, which is free. Do that one. Right? We want the free stuff. So we'll download the free version here, the community version here. And then I already have it installed here. Go figure. You can launch Pycharm. So the other things that install with Python, which are kind of fun, is this idle thing. So idle is essentially a place where I don't want that one, start writing Python code and it just spits out to the screen. I don't have a nice environment here. Some people really like this. I'm not that big of a fan because I really like Pycharm and having some sort of environment to work with. But if you want to, your very first thing we always do when you learn a new language is you tell the computer to say hello world. I don't know who started the tradition, but in Python we say print, parentheses, and then some quotes. We say hello world, and the quote, and the parentheses, and hit enter. It says hello world. We've just ran our first Python program in idle. Not the most interesting. So in Pycharm, that's our better tool for it here. I'm going to start a new project. So Pycharm organizes things with projects here. So I'm just going to put this, that's fine for now, I'll move it later. You'll get a couple options in Pycharm. So generally, it will find your Python install. It's pretty good at that. If it doesn't find it, it's going to say there's no environment to use, this no interpreter sort of thing. I can help you with it. We just have to tell it where Python's installed. It's not too bad. Usually it picks it up. So you can make this virtual environment. A virtual environment is essentially a copy of Python that your project will use, because later on down the road, we're going to go out to the internet and go use other people's Python code or libraries that people have written, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The problem with using other libraries is generally if you put it where your Python is installed for the computer, it's now available everywhere, and it might muck some stuff up. Not always, but there's a chance of it. So isolating it and putting it in a separate little container for a Python install is best practice, because we don't want to screw up our main Python install. Now, the packages we use should be perfectly fine. We're only going to use a couple, and they're well-known, well-maintained packages. But in general, it's a good practice to do this virtual environment thing. If you don't have a fast computer, you probably don't want to do a new one every time, because it'll be a little slow. If you have a fast computer, it takes like 3 seconds. Not too big of a deal here. Just enough time to sip some coffee. So I'm going to say, hey, sure, new virtual environment, no big deal. It's going to do this location thing. We'll look at changing this later when we start talking about Git in a little bit. This will be important, but for now, just this is where it puts that file, and then it will make this virtual environment, or VENV, a virtual environment folder there, which is another copy of Python basically, and put it out there. And it will automatically create a main script for you if you ask Pycharm to do it. It's usually really handy. It's one less step that we have to do manually. So I'm going to leave this box checked, and I'll say create. And then Pycharm can open multiple instances of Pycharm if you want to have more than one project open at a time. Usually I just say this window because I only want one open at a time. Usually easiest. If you want to like reference one project and be working on another, you can open it up in a new window and you have Pycharm open twice. So Pycharm, it looks a little intimidating. There's tons of stuff happening here. Don't worry about it. We'll talk you all through it here. So over on the left-hand side, this is the project view. So you can see this Python project is just a folder, and I can see what's inside of the folder. So right now there's that virtual environment, and there's a main.py file. .py files are our Python files. It's just a convention, nothing magic about being named .py. Just Windows happens to know py files are Python files. That's what file extensions are. They're just helpful tools for your operating system to know what kind of file it is. It's just text. So main py opens in the main tab here. So we can keep the project tree view on the left, and your main working tab is over here. It gives you a bunch of other stuff here, and if you just hit the run button here, or you go to the run menu and hit run, or you right click and say run. When it comes to integrated development environments, or IDEs, there's like 3 ways to do everything. Some people like shortcuts, some people like buttons, some people like keyboard options. So you'll notice you can also do Control-Shift-F10. You can click this button, you go to this menu. It all does the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. Usually I right click because my hand's usually on the mouse. And I hit run. Now the bottom section opens up here. And in the bottom section, I see the output of my program. Now what's happening behind the scenes is this line of code is essentially being run. I mean, code's actually not the right word for it here. But we're telling my computer, hey, python.exe, go do this Python file over here. So Python is known as an interpreted language. So Python scripts or files here, Python programs, are just text files. And I can take that text file and I can put it on any sort of computer that has a Python interpreter. They write them for Mac, they write them for Linux, some mobile devices run them. There's a new calculator out there that's challenging Texas Instruments' monopoly on graphing calculators that runs Python. It is phenomenal and cheaper than a TI-83 or 85 or 89 or whatever nonsense they have nowadays. And they still charge like $200 a calculator, which is Texas Instruments is awful. So the Python executable will go and read the Python file and go and run the code. So it's interpreting the code as it's running. Other languages that you might work with are compiled languages where there's no Python executable. It's just, here's the program that I wrote, will compile down to something that's some program.exe you can click on and it runs. That's a compiled program. So Python's a little bit different. For our purposes, we don't really care. It's not going to make much of a difference here. But then it runs, and then you see any output. So I see it says, hi, Pycharm. Again, if none of this makes sense, that's okay. It doesn't have to. This was just their starter code. I'm going to delete all of it here because I don't need their starter code. I'm going to go back and do my print hello world. Right, and I'm going to run that because that's my starter one. Now I have my very first hello world program. Fantastic. And these zoom really nice, which is pretty handy so you can see it. If it's too small, just shout at me. Happy to zoom in a little bit, make that easier to see. Pycharm's pretty friendly. Okay. The other thing that I could do if I wanted to, if you're familiar with PowerShell or the command line or your terminal in Macland, you can go and run this yourself and see the output of your Python program in that window, in that tool. So if I wanted to, I could open up my Windows terminal here and I can copy paste this. Did it select all? There, it selected all of it. Paste it in, and it runs, and I get my output in my window here. Because the Python executable will read this file and run it for me. And now I get my output here instead of Pycharm. Pycharm's better, and then I don't have to copy paste stuff. But if you want to, you can go do it here. It's a fun exercise. You're welcome to do that sort of stuff. And some people love the terminal or command line or PowerShell. Sure, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, there's our very first Python program. We'll work on this in lab. We'll get all the tools installed on your laptop. They should already be installed on the college computers. I forgot to ask IT about it because it's just been there every year and I haven't had to mention it again. It should be fine. And I think almost everyone has a laptop. So if not, let me know. We'll make sure everything works for you. But we'll find out in 1 hour. Wow. Man, Mondays are going to be fun. All right, so that is Python. Now, this file here is just a file on my computer, so I can go and my open? If I right click my project here in Pycharm and say I want to open in Explorer, it will open up my Windows Explorer window right to the project. Here's my Python project folder. Inside that folder, there's this .idea folder. This is all the stuff that Pycharm uses. Just leave it alone. Don't worry about it. There's the virtual environment. This is our copy of Python. Don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. The main py file, this is the interesting one. So if I want, I can go and open this with some other text editor. Here's Visual Studio Code. Doesn't matter. Right? It's just a text file. That's all it is. So we just work on it in Pycharm, which is cool. All right, so we'll work on Hello World in the lab. Now I want to show you more about GitHub. So GitHub is a hosting provider of the Git source control tool. So Git, if we go take a look at their Wikipedia page here, is a tool made for tracking source code being your program files, your program source. Git was created by our friend Linus Torvald, the founder of Linux, when he looked at the existing source control tools and thought he could do better. Turns out he could. Git is by far and wide the most popular source control tool out there in the industry. Okay, so Git is the tool. GitHub is the hosting provider of the Git source control tool. So GitHub gives you a cloud-based central repository you can synchronize with. So Git is known as a distributed source control system. So if you have a copy of what's known as a repository, it's just a fancy word for folder, you have the entire history of everything that's happened, which is nice. It's pretty handy to have. So everyone who is using that repository, that folder, has a copy of it. And we need to take our changes from our computer and push them to the cloud or the central repository or the origin. Or if there are changes done by other people, we will take the changes from the central repository and pull them down to our computer. So it's a push and pull system. When you're working individually, you're pretty much only ever going to push. No big deal. Don't worry about it. When you start working with a team, you will push and pull because now you have to get other people's changes. So it's not too bad here. And then because GitHub was, I guess not so recently, but bought by Microsoft in the last couple of years, I forget when it was, they give away a lot of stuff to educational uses for free. They want people to use their tool, which is nice. So this classroom GitHub thing is really fun. And I will set this up here. So this is CIS 1501 fall 2022. This will automatically create repositories or folders for us to use, and it will make them private, which is nice, so that you have access and I have access to the code that's in the cloud. Your fellow students won't have access to it, so they can't copy off of you. Right? Not that you folks would copy, because you all agreed cheating is dumb, right? So not that you would, but it makes a nice private repository. So you have access and I have access. It's going to be fantastic. You don't have to upload files. You don't have to email files. We don't have to deal with code in Canvas because Canvas is not meant for code. Canvas is great for files. That's what it is. It's a learning management system. It's good at that. It's not good at code collaboration. It's not made for that. So we're going to use a tool made for that. And GitHub is widely used in the industry as well. There are other hosting providers of the Git source control system. GitHub is not the only one. But they happen to give stuff away for free, and they've got a really nice product. So I like that. So let me start up a new project here, or new assignment. This is fall 2022. This is lab 0. So it will make a private repository. So you have access and I have access. And then we're going to use a template here. But I think that one's it. There it is. So we get a couple starter things, which is really handy. So it will generate a link. Long story. This link here then, that you can click on, and I'll put in Canvas in a little bit for you, will go and do a couple things. You go to the link, and if you're logged into GitHub, you can go and do this. If you're not logged in, you won't have your whatever icon here. You can go log in. Say, hey, do you want to accept the assignment? If you want me to evaluate your stuff, yes, you want to accept the assignment. You don't have to, but it's really hard to get a score if you don't accept the assignment, right? So you just say yes. Then it says, hey, it might take a few minutes. It takes like 5 seconds tops. So great, count to 5, take a swig of coffee, refresh the page, F5 or hit your refresh button, and now we have a link. So now there's a private repository, a central cloud-based place for you to put files and for me to see your files. So it has my name here because it's my organization, and then it has the name of the assignment dash your username here. My username is Eric Janeski. life is easy. I'm the only Eric Chinesky in the world. My kids all have my wife's hyphenated last name, so I will still be the only Eric Chinesky in the world unless my cousin has a boy and names him Eric, or his children have boys and name them Eric. But my brother's done having kids, so probably be the only Eric Chinesky out there. It's actually pretty nice. So easy to find me on Google, which you probably all did, right? I didn't give you much of a background about myself. I kind of assume everyone Googles their prof. So okay, a couple of people are nodding their heads. They probably Googled me. Great. So here's the link. It's just a website. The website lets you see the files that are inside of it. Notice there's a couple files already. There's a .gitignore. Leave this one alone. If it changes, it changes. Great. This tells Git not to add certain types of files. There are things we don't want in source control. For languages that are compiled languages, you don't want anything that gets compiled because we only want the source code. If you have the code, you can click the compile button and generate all of that stuff. And it just keeps more junk out of GitHub. There's the README file, which is fun. It just looks like this. It's a markdown file. If anyone has done markdown before, great. You can play with it if you want. I will just leave it alone all the time. And then there's a main py file. We have a Python file right off the bat we can start doing something with. And if I click on a file, it opens it up. It has one line of code, and it says code goes here. That's your template. That's your starter that we're going to use. So it's out in the cloud, but my computer doesn't have it yet. So we're going to come back to the main page for the repository, which, again, there's like 5 different places you can click to get back here. This will always take you back here, the link at the top, if you're in any particular file, or you can click this link over here. There's sure, tons of different places to go. The big old green code button here will work if you have downloaded the GitHub Desktop tool. So I think I linked GitHub Desktop, didn't I? Did I not link it? It prompts you for it anyway, but usually I put a link out there. I did not. Okay, so you can go out to desktop.github.com. I'll put that link in here. And download for Windows or Mac or Linux or your, I don't know what else other operating system people would use. But go for it. I'll go add that in here before I forget. So here's our GitHub Desktop client. Come on, turn it into a link. There it goes. And I'll save that as a PDF. All right, we'll go back to Canvas and fix that one up. Not that one. 1501. All right, cool. Now it's fixed. So desktop.github.com, you can download the GitHub client. It's a pretty quick download and install. You don't even need admin permissions, so you can install this on the lab computers if you want to use one of the lab computers. I don't think they keep your stuff. It's been a little while since I asked IT how all that works. So you might have to download it every time you use a lab computer. It's not too big of a deal. It takes like a minute. So just bring some coffee. You can drink some coffee. Well, actually, we're not allowed to have beverages in the lab. So just keep a lid on it. And if you spill and you break it, you buy it. Okay? I won't yell at you. But probably don't eat. That usually can bother people's allergies and things. But I think drinks are safe. I don't think we've got any drink-borne allergies. As long as you're not drinking a peanut shake, right? Don't bring a peanut protein shake. We'll be okay. All right. So you can download it, install it. Once it's installed, and you click this nice little link, where to go here? The green link. You can say Open with GitHub Desktop. Again, there's like 3 different ways to do this. I prefer the green code button method because it's fastest. It'll say, hey, do you want to open the GitHub Desktop.exe program? Yes, please. Open that one up. GitHub Desktop opens and says, hey, we're going to take this website, this repository, this URL, and make a copy of it here local on your computer. Yes, please. Now, if you're the kind of person who likes to organize your stuff and you want to put it in a particular school folder and a semester folder and a class folder, go for it. Git could care less. You just need to know where you put it. The default is your Documents GitHub folder. If you didn't have a GitHub folder, it will make a GitHub folder for you. I like defaults because they make my life easy. I don't have to worry about it here. Some people like to put all their school stuff like in a OneDrive or a Google Drive or whatever software you have now. You're welcome to do that, and then you'll have 2 copies in the cloud because we're going to get all of our stuff on the GitHub cloud for all of our code. If you want to have it somewhere else, go for it. Doesn't matter. You know, extra redundancy is fine. Probably don't pay by the bit, so it's probably okay. And I'll say clone. So clone is the fancy term for make a copy. So now on my computer, I can go to the repository menu and say Show and Explorer, or click the Show and Explorer button, and it opens up a folder. So this is my users, Eric C, Documents, GitHub, CIS 1500, Fall 2022, Lab 0-Eric Chinesky folder. Inside of this, if you're looking at hidden files and folders with your show options here, there's a .git folder. That's where all the magic happens with the Git source control tool. Don't touch it. Just let it be. Okay? If you delete it, bad stuff happens. But other than that, you'll see the 3 files. Remember, there's a git ignore file, there's a main file, and a readme file. Great, we have all the files now. So what I can do, I can come over to Pycharm, and I'm going to say, hey, I want a new project. Now I'm going to pick the location. I'm going to go find my GitHub folder, find CIS 1501 fall lab 0, and say OK. Right, I'm going to find that folder that I just created by clicking the code clone button. Right? And I'm going to tell Pycharm, hey, let's make a project in that folder. Now we don't need to check this box because there already is a main py script in the project. So I don't need the box checked. If you have it checked, it's not going to matter. It'll be okay. You hit create, and it says, oh, hey, it's not empty. Do you want to make it from the existing sources? We say, yes, please use the stuff that's in there. Again, I'm going to use this window. If you say new window, it's fine. You'll just have Pycharm open twice. And now it likes to default to the README file. I don't know why. But we don't need the README file, so I'm going to close that tab. I'm going to come over here to the main file. Now you see code goes here. Right? This is our main py file. This is where we want to put our Python code. And I can say like print hello world. And if I give it a run, oh, that was the wrong option. That was debug, sorry. If I give it a run, now the first time this run button's not usually active until you hit the other run button. I don't know why. Again, I almost never use this one, so it never bothers me. I just right-click and say run, or go to the run menu and hit run. Sure. If it bothers you, I'm sure we can probably figure something out here, but just use the other run button. That's easiest. Again, it says hello world, great. Now the GitHub Desktop client, Git as a source control tool, its job is to watch files for changes. All it does, it's just a glorified file watcher. So anything that goes in that folder or comes out of that folder is being tracked by Git. So it says, hey, there's some new stuff here. There's a green plus for new, a yellow dot for changed, and there's a red minus for deleted. So you can see quickly, these are the changes since the last time we've looked at this folder. So I can look at these other files. Anything in the .idea folder we don't care about. Just let it happen. The .idea folder is stuff that Pycharm wants. Right? Let Pycharm be happy. And like workspace file will change like every time because it actually like tracks what line you had selected or some nonsense. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not too bad, I promise. Just let it change. What we care about is, did our py file, did our Python file change? We can see, hey, there was a line added. This print hello world line was added. Fantastic. So now what we need to do so that Git can track this is we make something called a commit. A commit is essentially a snapshot, a point-in-time snapshot of that folder. So it has everything that's in that folder packaged up into one nice little commit, and it's going to track it for us. So it says, hey, this summary is required. The Git summary, commit summary, is a required field. You have to say something about it. Different organizations have different standards on what sort of things you should put here. I don't care what you put here, right? I'm not going to look at the message here. Sometimes it's useful to see, hey, this is the message here. So this will be my hello world. So generally, useful is better than garbage, but Git could care less. So I'm going to say commit. Now it's made a snapshot. All those changes are gone. I have that snapshot, but now I have a push button here or a push button here. I've made a change on my local repository. The cloud doesn't know about it, right? So to get my change out to the github.com central repository or the origin or the cloud, I have to push. This is that idea of I'm pushing or pulling. So I pushed. Now I can go back to the website. So if you're not sure where the website was, you can just say view on GitHub or go to the repository menu and say view on GitHub. It will launch out the browser again to that page, github.com/Chernesky/assignment-username. And you can go in here and you can click the main py file and you can look at it. You can see, hey, there's now a print hello world. So this will be the last step before you turn something in. You'll say, hey, can I see my code on github.com? If you can see it here on github.com, I can see it on github.com. If you can't see it on github.com, I guarantee you I can't see it either, right? Because we both have access to the same thing, right? It's the same website we're both going to go to. So if you can see it, great. You're going to take this URL, copy and paste it into Canvas. Canvas will say, hey, turn in the URL, please. So you just give it this URL. Right? This is your last sanity check. So you'll notice these say initial commit. This one says hello world. So that commit summary does show up in the GitHub web client here on the website. You'll see the commit summary for the last time that file was changed, which is really cool. So the idea is that as your project evolves and you're working on something in industry and it's a really useful tool and you have to make changes to it and people want new features and you add new features, you get to see all the changes that happen when. They're like, oh, that file hasn't been changed in 3 months, or oh, that file changed yesterday. That might be the thing that's broke something and it stopped working that I need to go focus on to go fix something. So it's really helpful to have that all tracked, and then you know who made that change. So when I'm working with my team, if something stops working and I see there's an error message with this particular file, I can go see, oh, who touched that file last? And I get to go blame them for it. Or be like, hey, you changed this last and now it's not working. You know what's going on here? And some sort of collaboration. The other really cool thing that the GitHub website lets us do is these line numbers here are actually links. There's not a lot of stuff happening here, but I can click line 2 and it adds the #sign L2. By the way, that's the wrong button. It's not a hashtag, that's a #sign, or technically an octothorpe. Yes, I'm that old. I think calling it a hashtag is annoying. It's okay. You're welcome to annoy me. So you can take this link and send it to me over Discord, or you can email it to me, or texting's a little weird for links because then I have to like view it on my phone and it's really small. But sure, if you want, you can send the link here and say, hey, I'm having some problems here at this particular line. And as our programs go, they'll be longer, and you'll have more and more lines and that sort of fun stuff. So you can get the link right to it, which is awesome. So GitHub is designed for code collaboration. So we'll put all of our code there. The collaboration part is you giving it to me to grade. There's not a whole lot of I'm not going to make changes to your code, but if we're working in a team, I could go and make changes or fix your problems or that sort of thing. But I'll tell you what's wrong and then you can go fix it. Generally, I don't fix code for you, but I'll help you fix it yourself, if that makes any sense. Okay, so that is the GitHub website. So for each lab and for each project, we'll have a new repository. It's just a new folder. It will just help keep things organized and separate. And then we'll have lab 0, lab 1, lab 2, on and on and on, yada, yada, yada. Project 0, project 1, project 2, on and on for each one. Okay, so you'll have a bunch of different repositories. They're just different folders that you're going to put your stuff in. So each one will be a new Pycharm project in that folder. Works out relatively well. Okay. Wow, we did pretty good. So it's installing Pycharm. That is GitHub. Some quick basics. I think we're pretty good. I'm pulling up the schedule here again. Maybe. There it goes. Yeah, awesome. So we can probably actually start chapter 1 on Wednesday then. I don't think we need to wait. That way we can get a little bit ahead, which would be nice. Give us a little more time. Because we don't have class, we don't have lab on Labor Day. Excuse me. So I think that's pretty good for today. We got lab starting at 2 o'clock. So the labs will be due the week after by 11:59 p.m. The goal is you walk out the door and the lab is done. That's the goal. You can get it done in that hour 45, right? If you can't and you get stuck on it, I'm there to help. So I will walk around the lab. I can help people with stuff, get you pointed in the right direction, make sure it's working for you. But that's your practice time where I'm there to help. Okay? If you don't come to lab, this assignment's still posted in Canvas. You can still do the assignment in Canvas. You will turn in your code afterwards. If you're having trouble with the lab and you're not in the lab there to ask me questions, it's a little harder for me to help you. Okay? You're welcome to try it. If you're asking me questions every week at times that are not lab time, right, and trying to make appointments other than my regular office hours to meet with me to talk about lab things, I'll start telling you to come to lab. Right? I'll work with you once or twice for sure. I'm generally a nice person, but if you are skipping labs and then having problems with labs, I'll tell you to come to lab. Is that fair? Okay. For lectures, I am live streaming on Twitch. I'll put that link out in Canvas. I will export them out to YouTube afterwards. So for the recordings, which I've been using Twitch actually for quite a while now. I used to teach, and I'm going to teach it again, a class in C# in the winter semester. And Michigan winters are a little rough sometimes. And it was an evening class from 6 to 8:45 p.m. And some people had trouble making it. And I'm a giant nerd, and I've watched stuff on Twitch before. I used to watch Day 9 when he would stream StarCraft 2 tournaments and things. So been quite a while. I was like, I bet I could do this. So I got it set up and I started streaming on Twitch. That was before the pandemic started. And then the pandemic happened and I just stayed on Twitch because I thought Zoom was stupid. Zoom University was no fun for me. And then like fighting with people like turn on your camera please, or don't turn on your camera please, or I don't want to see your room, or like it was a whole argument, and people had all sorts of opinions. And I said, I'll just stay on Twitch. And I just would broadcast on Twitch. People would join on Twitch chat or watch on YouTube, and most everyone was happy. I think I had one person complain about it, that's fair. It's a little harder to ask questions if you can't do voice chat. So I offered to meet on the Discord server for voice chat, and they didn't take me up on it, so that I didn't think they were really complaining. So I've been on Twitch for a while, but the C# class, at the end of every class, there's the end of semester survey. Someone had said the semester before that, and I'm a little embarrassed, but also a little proud of it, weirdly. Their comment was, Eric is like a squirrel with an adrenaline shot. Like I would bring a thermos full of coffee. It was actually a growler full of coffee. Like it fits an entire pot of coffee that I would make before class started, bring it with me and drink most of a pot of coffee during class, because those evening classes are rough, right? 6 to 8:45 p.m. is a lot of time at night. And I had 6 kids at home at the time. Now I have 7 kids at home. So I drink a lot of coffee. I talk fast. So I was using Twitch to keep the recording out there. And then when they went to take the final exam, they complained that the week 2 lecture wasn't available anymore. Twitch only keeps them for like 45 days. And I was really confused why during the final they'd want to go watch a video from week 2, but okay, sure. So I started exporting them out to YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel that you can go and find all the previous classes. If you're so bored, you are welcome to go watch last year's class as well if you want to work ahead or anything like that, or any of the other classes I have. It's fun. So Twitch has paid me money, which is cool. I get some random people in chat cheering bits or subscribing and things. So all of it gets donated to the Student Scholarship Fund at the College of Engineering and Computer Science. We've raised about $400 so far since I've been doing this on Twitch, which is crazy that it does that. It doesn't even pay for like 1 credit, but it's free money essentially for the scholarship fund. And then it's a lot of fun, and we get some fun people. So our friend Y Paladin just joined in. He's a software guy out on the West Coast. Twitch is just a fun little community place too. So all sorts of fun people hop in. And if people have questions that are on topic, I will entertain them. Because if it's on topic and a question, it's probably not clear for someone, and that's great. So it works out pretty well. And we'll go from there. So I'll see you folks over in lab then at 2. We'll do our intro to GitHub Lab. We'll do a Hello World program, make sure it gets out there. Not a whole lot, and again, I got to leave a little early here, but it should take everyone less than an hour. So if I leave by 3, it should be okay. We should be good from there. Okay? Questions, thoughts, or concerns before we end? Okay, I owe you some links. I'll post all those to Canvas, and we'll see you folks in a little bit. Thanks.